A luxury handbag vanished, and suddenly the whispers inside royal corridors turned into a storm no one could ignore. What looked like a simple missing accessory exploded into a scandal powerful enough to rattle both the palace and the ruthless world of high fashion. Because the moment that bag disappeared, it didn't just disappear, it reappeared. And when it did, it was hanging from the arm of one of the most controversial women connected to the royal family, Meghan Markle. And that is where the quiet chaos began. The bag itself wasn't just any luxury piece. This was a highly exclusive Balenciaga creation, custom designed and commissioned for Zara Tindall. A handcrafted crocodile embossed clutch, subtly monogrammed and created after multiple private design consultations. It was meant to debut at one of the most elite charity gatherings of the year, the Women in Economic Leadership Gala. In elite circles, objects like this aren't simply fashion. They are signals of trust, signals of status, signals of influence. And when that signal suddenly vanished from the Balenciaga London showroom, where it had been carefully stored under Zara's name, the first reaction wasn't public outrage. It was quiet confusion. Balenciaga issued a polite apology to Zara's team, calling the disappearance a regrettable logistical error. Corporate language, vague, sanitized, the kind of explanation that sounds professional but actually explains nothing. Still, Zara handled the situation exactly the way people expected from her. No leaks, no drama, no press statements. She simply attended the gala carrying a different accessory. To the outside world, the story ended there. But inside the fashion industry, the story was only beginning, because about a week later, something happened inside Balenciaga's Paris office that made several executives freeze in place. One of the brand's internal staff members was reviewing photographs from a private PR event held on the left bank. Routine documentation. Nothing unusual, until one single photo appeared on the screen. In that image was Meghan Markle, dressed head to toe in Balenciaga, confidently walking into the office. And hanging from her arm was the exact handbag that had mysteriously disappeared. The monogram, the shape, the distinctive crocodile finish. Every detail matched. For a moment, there was disbelief. Surely this was a coincidence. But the deeper the team looked into the photograph, the clearer it became. It was Zara's bag, and Meghan Markle was not supposed to have it. Now the situation became delicate, because Meghan had been hovering around Balenciaga's orbit for months. Quiet discussions about a potential partnership had been circulating. Her team had allegedly been exploring the possibility of an ambassador-style relationship with the brand. Nothing official, nothing confirmed, just early-stage negotiations. But now the brand suddenly faced a disturbing question. How had a custom handbag reserved for a respected client ended up in the possession of someone trying to become a brand ambassador? Balenciaga responded the only way luxury houses know how to respond when reputational risk appears. They froze everything. Contract discussions with Meghan Markle were immediately paused. No confrontation, no accusation, just silence and distance, the most devastating response in high fashion. Because when a fashion house pauses negotiations, it sends a signal to the entire industry. Something is wrong. Meanwhile, Zara remained exactly the same as she always had been, calm, composed, and strategic. Through her private secretary, she simply contacted Balenciaga with a respectful inquiry. She didn't accuse anyone. She didn't demand headlines. She asked a single question. How did a bag reserved under her name end up somewhere else? Luxury houses keep meticulous records. Every product, every pickup, every client signature. When Balenciaga began tracing the chain of events, a strange explanation emerged. According to internal findings, the bag had been collected by someone claiming to represent potential brand partnerships. Credentials had appeared legitimate at first glance, but a deeper review began revealing something troubling. There were whispers that Meghan's team had occasionally borrowed luxury items for photo shoots that were never formally returned, that certain pieces had appeared in personal appearances without official approval. Requests for items had allegedly been made through informal channels rather than formal contracts. Nothing illegal, but definitely not standard procedure. And then there was Paris Fashion Week. Meghan had posted images suggesting she had been personally invited by Balenciaga's creative director, Demna Gvasalia, but internal PR records told a very different story. She had attended the events, yes, but she was not on official VIP lists. She was not a confirmed guest. She was not a brand partner. Yet the imagery she posted projected something else entirely: authority, influence, affiliation. And in the fragile ecosystem of high fashion, projecting a relationship that doesn't exist can be more dangerous than outright scandal, because luxury brands survive on controlled access, on carefully curated alliances, on exclusivity. Balenciaga now faced a potential nightmare. A respected royal-adjacent client had lost a commissioned piece. That same piece appeared in public carried by someone trying to leverage influence within the brand. So the fashion house did what powerful institutions do when they want to avoid public warfare. They stepped back, quietly. Meanwhile, Meghan Markle appeared to be moving in the opposite direction. Within 24 hours of the controversy beginning to circulate inside fashion circles, her team released a glossy promotional teaser for a new project called Love with Meghan. The video was cinematic, polished, carefully staged, and featured Meghan walking through Paris wearing luxury accessories, including the handbag. To insiders watching from the sidelines, the timing looked deliberate, almost like a statement. Zara appeared at a gala. Meghan appeared in Paris with the missing bag. In the brutal chess game of influence, some observers interpreted it as a flex. But if that was the intention, the reaction was not what Meghan expected. Executives inside fashion houses began exchanging messages. PR directors shared screenshots. Creative teams whispered the same question: is she serious? Because instead of strengthening Meghan's perceived influence, the move triggered something else entirely: quiet ridicule, a sense that someone was attempting to perform power rather than actually possessing it. Meanwhile, Zara continued doing exactly what she always does. Nothing dramatic, no Instagram responses, no public accusations, just quiet composure. The contrast between the two women was becoming impossible to ignore. One seemed determined to dominate the narrative. The other simply allowed silence to speak for her. But behind palace walls, someone else had been watching this entire situation unfold very carefully. Someone who understood strategy better than almost anyone in the royal family: Princess Anne. And when Princess Anne decides to respond, she never does it loudly. She does it precisely. And what she was about to set in motion would quietly change the entire balance of this unfolding scandal. Inside royal circles, people understand one simple truth about Princess Anne: she does not react emotionally. She calculates. She observes. And when she finally acts, the consequences tend to arrive quietly but permanently. While headlines buzzed about handbags and Paris appearances, Anne had already begun moving pieces behind the scenes. No public statements, no dramatic palace announcements, just a series of internal meetings that almost no one outside the institution even noticed. According to staff familiar with those discussions, Anne initiated what was described as a family-only review. On paper, it sounded harmless, a routine evaluation of how royal-adjacent figures were interacting with commercial brands and luxury houses. But insiders understood the real purpose. The review was quietly examining every commercial activity connected to Meghan Markle: brand partnerships, luxury acquisitions, social media appearances implying official endorsements. Anne didn't accuse Meghan of anything publicly. She didn't even mention her name during most discussions. Instead, she allowed the institution's machinery to do what it does best: observe, document, and tighten protocol. One palace advisor later described the process with chilling simplicity. You never see Anne raise her voice, but suddenly the room gets smaller. While Meghan's team continued releasing glossy promotional content and cryptic posts about conspiracies and exclusion, the royal household was quietly reshaping its strategy. And one name kept appearing in those internal conversations: Zara Tindall. Zara had always existed slightly outside the official structure of monarchy. She carried no royal title, no formal obligations. Yet, ironically, she embodied exactly the kind of image the institution values most: discipline, professionalism, and complete discretion. So Anne made a subtle but powerful decision. Instead of confronting Meghan directly, she would elevate the people who represented the opposite approach. Soon, Zara began appearing everywhere: charity functions, equestrian events, elite fashion gatherings, and she did it without hiring armies of PR consultants or flooding social media. She simply showed up. Meanwhile, another quiet alliance began forming around her. So Lady Louise Windsor, known for her low profile and reserved nature, was suddenly photographed leaving Zara's London apartment the morning after the handbag controversy erupted online. No press release, no explanation, just a photograph that spoke volumes. Then came another signal. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, hosted both Zara and Lady Louise at a private equestrian gathering in Oxfordshire. Again, there were no official announcements, but the message inside royal circles was unmistakable: solidarity. Strategy. Stability. While Meghan appeared increasingly aggressive online, hinting at hidden truths and unnamed conspiracies, the royal women closest to the institution were quietly reinforcing each other. No confrontation, no arguments, just presence. And the public noticed the contrast. Because at the same time Meghan's narrative was becoming louder and more defensive, Zara's reputation was doing something extraordinary. It was growing. Fashion editors began praising her understated style. A Vogue UK contributor described her look as modern aristocratic ease. Social media users admired the fact that Zara never seemed to chase attention. She simply possessed it. Meanwhile, the fashion industry was making its own decisions. The Balenciaga freeze had already raised eyebrows, but within weeks, other luxury houses began quietly distancing themselves from Meghan as well. Invitations that once seemed likely suddenly disappeared. Emails went unanswered. Tentative discussions evaporated. Luxury brands are incredibly protective of reputation, and once whispers of unpredictability began circulating inside that world, doors closed quickly. There were early discussions about a sustainability collaboration with Chanel. Those discussions quietly ended. Instead, Chanel partnered with Zara on an equestrian-inspired capsule concept celebrating heritage and sport. It was an almost poetic reversal. A woman who never chased fashion influence was suddenly becoming one of its most respected ambassadors. Meanwhile, Meghan attempted to pivot again. Her social media presence grew increasingly erratic. One day, posts celebrated empowerment and independence. The next day, darker messages hinted at sabotage and hidden enemies within elite institutions. Without naming Balenciaga or the palace directly, the implication was obvious. She believed she was being systematically excluded, but this strategy wasn't landing the way it once had. The public had heard similar narratives before: allegations of persecution, betrayal, institutional cruelty. What once felt explosive was beginning to sound repetitive. One anonymous royal insider summed it up with brutal clarity: victimhood over accountability, every time. Yet Meghan still had one final move left. In early March 2026, a sealed letter arrived at a London legal firm connected to one of the palace's charitable partners. The letter carried a carefully worded warning. If defamatory implications against Meghan continued, she might consider releasing archived communications with unnamed senior royals. The message was unmistakable: a threat. The palace response? Silence. Anne's directive was simple: ignore it. The monarchy has survived wars, abdications, constitutional crises, and scandals spanning centuries. The idea that private messages might be leaked simply didn't create panic inside those walls. The letter allegedly offered Meghan an opportunity to step away from the chaos and return to meaningful public service, not as a celebrity, but as someone willing to rebuild trust. Meghan never responded. Soon afterward, scrutiny surrounding the Archewell Foundation intensified as investigators began reviewing discrepancies between reported spending and project outcomes. Meanwhile, the palace moved calmly forward. Prince William reportedly ordered reviews of past Sussex communications. Catherine, Princess of Wales, quietly resumed public duties after her health recovery. Royal charities continued their work without interruption, and Zara kept doing exactly what she had always done: working, writing, showing up without spectacle. When asked later why she never felt the need to defend herself during the controversy, Zara delivered one final remark that perfectly captured the philosophy of those who had weathered the storm: if you know what you're doing, you don't have to explain what you didn't do. And that leaves one lingering question: was the infamous handbag incident simply a misunderstanding? Was it a calculated attempt to project influence? Or was someone far more powerful quietly setting the stage for Meghan Markle's isolation from the very world she once hoped to dominate? One missing handbag, two very different approaches to power, and a scandal that revealed far more about influence than fashion ever could.